just a little bit of background about me. My name is Brian Tuttle, and I've been doing HIPAA compliance consulting, well, since 2003 for all intents and purposes when the HIPAA security rule came out, which was the enforcement of protections for electronic private health information. I've worked on behalf of the federal government as a contracted auditor, as well as a conducted over upwards of 900 risk analysis, all the way for large hospitals down to small little apps being developed for an iPhone. So more feelers just to kind of see who they're going to go after, who they're not going to go after. So without further ado, let's flip to the first slide here. Just a real quick, I like to begin with a small build-up of history of the law up to where we are now. But the Health Insurance Portability Act of 1996, HIPAA, of course, signed into the law of the same year, honestly, it had nothing to do from its inception with what we think the law actually is. When we think of the word HIPAA, most of us think the same thing. We think, be quiet, don't wrongfully disclose health records, don't access records you're not supposed to access, those sorts of things. But there's a whole lot more to this law than that. Next slide here. It's also known as the Kennedy-Kassenbaum Act, named after the two major sponsors. No real reason to remember this, just a little FYI. It was bipartisan legislation set forth in 1996. So let's move to the next slide, slide 4 here. Look at the acronym, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. So what's missing in that acronym, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act? The whole concept of HIPAA was for portability of your health insurance. That's what the whole point in 1996 was. But obviously things morphed and changed over the years, and there's a lot of different little pieces to the law. Let's move to the next slide. And you don't even see the words privacy and security in the acronym, but by far that they present our biggest challenge with the law. The inherent problem with HIPAA, at least in what we're dealing with the HIPAA administrative simplification aspects of the law, which is where privacy and security, as well as the CPT coding aspects and the breach notification are located. So that's what we deal with as medical practices or as a business associate. It's primarily privacy and security. But the problem with the law, it's just not well written. They tell us what to do, but not how to do it. It's very gray. A does not equal B in this law. A equals whatever whatever risk dictates it equals. So it makes it very difficult for us to understand, okay, well, how do we implement this? It sure would be nice if the government would say, okay, here's exactly what you need to do. But they don't. They tell us what to do, but not how to do it. And everything with this law, everything with HIPAA privacy and security is based on two words, reasonable and appropriate risk mitigation. So what that means is taking the implementation specifications of the law, each of these things, there's 44 for HIPAA security, and implementing reasonable solutions to mitigate risk. There is no perfection. There never will be perfection. And I'll say this, and I say this all the time, it is so critical, especially now with the audit process, it is so critical that you have been proactive rather than reactive, meaning that we have been proactive in getting our house in order, doing our risk analysis, getting our policies in place, training our staff, making sure we have the adequate administrative, physical, and technical securities in place. We've done it proactively rather than reactive. Because what you do not want is to get an audit letter, and the first question you're typically going to be asked on an audit letter is, where is your risk assessment? Submit to us proof it's been done. Where's your policy for this? Where's your policy for that? So if you're in a reactive state and you don't have these things, that's where they throw the book at you. That's where you have problems. I've seen this time and time and time again, firsthand from being a contracted auditor for the government, and secondly and primarily, working with my clients, doing combat, essentially, with the federal auditors. So, especially if you have a nasty breach and if you get investigated, it can even lead to the FBI, then if you can't prove